So we're going to look at some high value keywords and we're going to see what is currently going on in the search results on Google. So we're going to look at these keywords. First one's going to be DUI lawyer Los Angeles, just because typically this cost per click can range from like 50 to like $350 each click, and then not including the actual lawsuits or defenses can bring lawyers a significant amount of money, and this leads to being one of the most competitive keywords in Google. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at this first website and we're going to look and see what are they doing for their SEO. Is there any ideas we can take away from this? Like why is this site ranking number 1 for DUI lawyer Los Angeles, right? So some first things we're going to see, we see some navigation here, some breadcrumb, and then we can see kind of how they have it. Homepage, lawyer DUI, and then they also, in this URL structure at the bottom left, it says DWI as well. So then they've got both acronyms. Then they've also got California, and then they have a specific city, which is interesting. Then here in the navigation, we can see that they have find a lawyer, which takes us to the page or the URL, which is the homepage /lawyers. Then they have ask a lawyer, which is interesting because it takes us to a subdomain. You see this? answers.justia.com. Research the law, which just takes us to the interesting, which that just takes us to the homepage. Then we have law schools, and then we have another laws and regs. We have another subdomain, which is interesting. We got newsletters, which is another subdomain, and then marketing solutions, which is under the top level domain. Let's see if any of these. And then we have a blog, we have another subdomain, which is interesting. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 subdomains for this one website. And so let's see here. I'm also gonna take some notes. I'm just gonna put down all of these URLs because we may forget kind of the research we've done. So we're gonna just take some quick notes and we're gonna put those URLs. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 4 subdomain, which is interesting. Something else to note is that in the navigation, we can see these drop downs, right? And in the drop downs, let's see. Yeah, so in the drop downs, they also have some keywords. Not a massive navigation here at the top, but still quite a few links. We've also got these navigation links right here, which have keywords in them, which are on the page, which are going to count towards the keyword density. So let's do a control F. Let's do lawyer, and we can see that they have the word lawyer on this page 1,200 times, which is super interesting. So let's see DUI. They have DUI 296 times on this page. Let's see DWI. 26. Interesting. So I have a personal belief or a personal thought process of I would think DUI would be more appropriate. Also, given we did type in DUI lawyer Los Angeles. But what's interesting to think back on the tail end of that thought process is I have a natural bias in me to think of DUI instead of DWI. Honestly, the same thing, but that's also something to consider when you go to target keywords. You are going to want to know how other people are going to be searching, right? So let's say someone else is trying to rate, but they have a bias of they want to target DWI, or let's say you have a client or somebody that is wanting to target a specific keyword, but they don't quite realize the scope of how SEO works. You need to target what people are searching for, not the keywords that you want. So that's just one other facet to consider when you go and target keywords. And so this is super interesting for me to see how they have this set up. So then, this is only just the top of the page, and we're already seeing so much. This is interesting. So it already has the word DUI in the navigation. So that's interesting. So we're going to look at the code here. Huh. So they have like, it says right here, value DUI. So it looks like they have it auto populate, uh, which isn't something I've ever seen before. I'll have to look more into that. Let's take a screenshot of this because because look, they also automatically have Los Angeles in there as well. What? So then there it is, location value Los Angeles is super interesting. I don't exactly know why, and I look at this code more, but for the sake of keeping things going, we'll keep going. Okay. So then we'll scroll down here to learn more about DUIs. So this is interesting. What happens if I click this? That's interesting. I, well, let me, whoa. Okay. So let's refresh the page. When you first get on the page, it says view FAQs. But then when you click view FAQs, it switches to view lawyers. And then it gives you this FAQ that's hidden. But I wonder, so let me refresh it. Let me go and okay, let's see. Do I need to hire? Let's see. Do I need, come on, there you go. That's the FAQ. So the code is displayed, but you have to click to view it. Or sorry, the text is displayed. You have to click to view it, which is super interesting, right? Because this is a way to put more SEO on the page without having to take away from people that come and read the page. This is really well hidden. It's super interesting that then after you click it, it switches to this button to where it takes you down, which would make sense after you read it. You want to go and look at the lawyers. But as an example, in here, we can see that we're just getting keywords in here. And, You know what else is super interesting to think about? Is that this is at the top of the page. So this is going to be the first thing that Google reads and will, in theory, ascertain what the page is about. That's interesting. Why would they do this at the top of the page? What? So that's a question, right? Question. Why is a the top of the. Then we'll scroll down a little bit. So what happens if we hit free consultation? Oh, so it's a filter. So top rated, it's another filter. But interesting to notice how the URL structure changes. What I want to see is, so what happens if we take this URL to Google and we quote search it? So it's not indexed. Interesting. So how are they avoiding getting that URL? That would be something else that I'd have to check out later in the code. So as we can see, as we click free consultation, we get a different URL, and then top rating as well. We get another different URL, and then right here are all the filters. And then if we scroll down a little bit, so let's see here. What's also interesting is to see how these little cards are constructed, seeing where they are getting more keywords on the page, more terms, more phrases. And what I really want to see is, so you see it says it has this little description right here. When I click read more, it will take me to his page. But what I'm really curious about is that, so if I inspect this, is there more text? Let me go to responsive. Is there more text right here that's just hidden? Okay, so this is the class. So if we go here, so there is, it's just all of the text that's visible is all the text that's there. There's nothing hidden, which I find super interesting. And then also looking at the URL structure that they have. Oh, wait, hold on. Is this another subdomain? Yeah, this is another subdomain. That's five. One, two, three, four, five. That's five subdomains. That is super interesting. Okay. So there's the email. So what happens if I click email? I'm taken to this page. Oh, wow. I mean, honestly, I might be able to spend an entire hour just on this website. So let's see here. So let's just open all of these. Let's see what happens. Telephone number. So does this go to the same thing? Let's just see what happens if we click everything. All of these. So that's the contact. And then we can also see the little breadcrumb structure that they have here. Everything looks the same. And what's interesting is, so we see that we're at the subdomain lawyers. But when we go to look at the navigation, the site looks exactly the same. This looks exactly the same, right? But it's actually two different domains. One, or yeah, look at this, lawyers.justia, and then this is just justia. But how they have the site constructed is really interesting, really cool. So if I click this will take me to the homepage, back to the main top level domain. That's interesting. So this is his individual page. So I'll have to come back and look at this more. But this is his website. View website. Is that his website? So they, how are they doing this? Is this an iframe? How are they? What is going on? So this might also be something I'll have to go back and look at. So we're still on, now we're at a different domain. Instead of being lawyer.justia, now we're at justia.lawyer. And then we have this guy's website. So if we click here, we're taken to this, which is super interesting. So it's almost like they're taking the information and they're creating their own little templatized version of this guy's actual website. And I wonder if this is automated or you have to pay to be on this directory. Because then if you have to pay, it makes more sense. But then also with AI, this might be super easy to implement. And then if they own, yeah, they do own this. And then that's another referring domain backlink. So this is the guy's actual website. This is the client reviews. Los Angeles DUI lawyer. This is so. Is this powered by Justia too? Okay. This is. And then now we have another. Did I just get redirected? Yeah, this URL says elevate.justia, but it redirected me to this URL. Okay. So copy link address. What happens if I remove that portion? I'm still redirected. Interesting. Why is it? Let's mess with it a little. www. Remove that. Let's let's. I'm redirected again. What? What is this? Let's try Googling it. Nothing in Google. Okay, so what happens if we do this? Okay. Google's aware of it, but that's so. I would have to figure out how many hops I'm going through and why and where it's redirecting me from. But this is so interesting. So there's that. We'll keep going. So that's just the same. That or is that different? Is that that's that. So this is interesting. Why is this Kate and this one's Justin? The URLs are the same. Okay. And the premium. So it looks like the premium rotate. It does not look like they're not the exact same across the board. So I'm thinking that the premium portion rotates. So we'll go here. So these are pretty much all the same URLs. So we'll close them. This is the same URL as well, same website. We'll close that. It's the view source. That's their other subdomain. That's the other subdomain. That's the other subdomain. And that's the other subdomain. Wow. So this has been super interesting and eye-opening. So some walkaways we can take away from this is that they have 5 subdomains and they're all interlinked and they all each do individual things and they're all very specific. And what's probably happening is that they have a like in network of all of these subdomains and websites. So like just as a very simple example, each of these boxes is a subdomain and then they are probably doing something like this. Now, each of these lines is essentially a link, right? But what you also have to consider is that there are probably each of these is probably like linking to each other 100 times, like a couple hundred times, right? These are all interlinking and almost creating their own authority. Not only are they kind of like piggybacking off of each other, but then also they're all becoming their own like top level authority in the space because they all are answering like very specific individual law questions, right? And so having a lawyers.justia is creating a lawyers directory. So Google goes and sees, oh, this is a listing of all lawyers. And then you have the justia.com lawyers, right? If we look at these URL structures, lawyers slash DUI slash California slash Los Angeles. So then it's telling Google, okay, these are the lawyers in these areas, California, Los Angeles. So actually, let's go back to lawyers. Let's go back to this. Oh, but you can't. How do I go to this website? So what happens if I do this? So lawyers.justia.com/lawyer doesn't work. Does it even have a homepage? You're redirecting. So that's super interesting. You can't. Okay, so then let's go back. Let's go back here. So then what happens if we site. So what happens if we do this? What happens if we put that URL in? We can see try without personalization. It's it. There's only so what it's looking like is that they have this constructed so there's no homepage. There's no like hubs for the like as an example, like a normal directory site would have a hub which would link out to all of these individual pages, right? If we think about these lines as links. So this right here be the hub, and it would have like all of the listings of all the people. But what it's looking like they're doing is that instead of having these hubs, right? So this hub would be on the lawyers.justia.com, right? I should be able to go and find this this hub on that domain. But what they're doing instead is they have a shell of a domain which then links to a subdomain. Now, this is a little complicated. Can I do subdomain? How do I? And then what we'll do is we'll grab this. Can I select? Uh, my copy? Cannot copy. Oh yeah, just in the top left corner for some reason. And then so instead of it all being the same, what you have is this top level domain linking to these individual pages, which is super interesting. And it also makes it extremely difficult to go and find the structure of how they have everything set up because there is no homepage for their lawyers.justia.com. Now, if we had like Screaming Frog or Crawler go over and crawl everything, then it would be a little bit easier. This is just crazy to think. Okay, so this is interesting. Another thing I saw. So these dots. I'm wondering if they're hiding content there. Let's go see. Why is it? I want to see this right here. Interesting. They have the dot, but they're not hiding anything afterward. Yeah, this has been eye-opening on how they're ranking for this. This is really smart. This is like really, really, really smart. I'm like blown away. This is like blowing my mind right now. And this is so this makes so much sense. Cause so then what you do is you go and create a directory for a certain business niche, and then you market to them. And then you create this on your own. See, like, but then you have all these individual websites that are super simple and easy to make. So hold on, let's see. What happens if we get rid of this? Get rid of all of this. So that still works. Is this and that's not indexed? Is that intentional? Is that intentional? Source. This is JavaScript. No. but they just have it in one straight line. That I am so confused. That is so wow. Is there any URLs indexed with this? So now I'm doing a search. Is that another one? No, I think we already have that subdomain law, right? Yeah, law.justia. That okay. Wow. We already have answers. What is this? That doesn't look like it's anything. Yeah, so I'm gonna cut it here just because this is already like 30 minutes. Um, but there is oh, is there another subdomain? That's another subdomain. Yeah, I have a feeling that this is gonna be probably this is gonna get crazier. There's probably way more to this. And so I'm gonna cut it here. There might be a part two, there might be more to this. Check out the YouTube to see if there's more.